Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in a business hustle space. The Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve health and optimal and success. It's Friday, which means it's time for friend-sharing facts about health, business, and overall success. In today's episode, we talk to pet nutritionist and animal naturopath Ruth Hatten. Ruth Hatten is an animal lover, animal naturopath, pet nutritionist, and an energy healer. She lives on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland with her 3 feline cats. With qualifications in small animal naturopathy and Reiki, Ruth has helped hundreds of animals around the world feel healthier using nutrition and other natural modalities. Ruth adores animals, and her mission is to help animals be healthier and happier with combined approaches of animal naturopathy, pet nutrition, energy healing, and plant-based coaching. Some interesting facts about Ruth is that she's obsessed when it comes to healthy eating, and Ruth used to dance the flamenco. Is it flamenco?
Flamenco, yes.
Flamenco. And she also enjoys winding down to Netflix. Besides that, she knows that there's so many other things that she should be doing. Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, Ruth.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So what's this dance?
Well, so I went to England. My dad lives in England still. That's where I was born. And I went there. It's like the first time I'd seen him in like 13 years. Crazy. Long story. Won't get into that tonight because we'll be here all night, all day, whatever. And I met his soon-to-be wife. Obviously wasn't my mother. And she danced flamenco. And so I went and saw her dancing, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. It's so like passionate and exuberant, and I want to do it. And so I came back to Australia and I searched for flamenco classes in my area, found one with like one of Australia's best flamenco teachers of all, random, and danced that for quite a few years. And then for some reason I stopped. And then I tried going back last year because I was like, I've got to bring dance back into my life. I can't just be dancing in the living room. I've got to do more than that. And because I do that. And so I went back, but I've got this crazy ass annoying, sorry, I do swear. So if there's any children listening, block your ears. I'll try and control myself. I had this diagnosed with sacroiliitis last year, which is inflammation in the sacroiliac joints. And there's no cure. Basically, you just got to manage it. It's really debilitating because if you think about the sacroiliac joints is where the sacrum and the ilium attaches. So it's, in that backbone area and your tailbone. So essential to everything. So I was like, and I had to be really careful not to aggravate. I'm like, I'm going to try and see how flamenco goes. Anyway, I went, did one class. I was in so much pain the next day. I'm just like in tears. So I still have the dream of going back and doing it because I love it. But I need to do some work around stabilizing my SI joints.
Nice. Amazing. What type of, is it kind of like tap dancing, ballet, flamenco?
Well, kind of like it. I mean, flamenco comes from Spain.
Okay.
So that's where all the passion, Spanish people are very passionate. Kind of tap dancing because flamenco shoes do have the taps on the heels, on the toes, and the nails on the heels. I'm combining my words here. So there is a bit of tapping to it. Lots of, obviously the listeners won't be able to see this, but lots of these, these
hands
ones.
In the air, spinning.
Hands in the air, spinning around, and big skirts and doing all things with your skirts and stuff. So very feminine, very passionate, very people don't know flamenco. They might know the guitar, the flamenco guitar. The music is, if I had a tune, I'd play it right now, people could hear it. Flamenco guitar music is beautiful. So you get to dance to that as well. It's just beautiful. And
it sounds absolutely beautiful. And passionate, like you said. Hopefully you'll be able to get that under control and slowly get back into it. That would be amazing because you can feel your passion. You can feel you in it.
It's great because you can tap out your anger. You can connect to your feminine side by because all the movements are quite feminine, but they can also be very strong. And not to say that feminine isn't strong. It is strong, but it's strong in a feminine way. But you it's just
You've sold me. You've sold me.
You'll definitely have classes in Melbourne. Go and try it out. You'll love it, I'm sure.
You've sold me. You've sold me. Look, today we're going to be talking about such an exciting topic that I'm so excited about, and I'm pretty sure the audience are. It's not something that I've had an episode on the Natural podcast about pets before. It's always been about us. It's always been about the human body. But I thought I'll get you on here because, hey, all of us have that little fur friend that we sometimes love more than ourselves. So I wanted to find out how we can look after this fur friend. Before we get into it, I wanted to know a little bit more about you. Besides all of your dancing, I wanted to know the key turning points and things that happened in your life to get you where you are today.
I'd say the main key turning point was so I trained as a lawyer, and I was a lawyer. Well, yeah. Until next week, I have been a lawyer 2 days a week for the past year, and I quit my job. So I'm going full time into my business next week. So that's really, really exciting. But, I've fast tracked from before to now, like in a second. So, but back I'd been a lawyer for quite some time, and I was sitting in my office, and I'm like, I hate this. I cannot do this for the rest of my life. What can I possibly do for the rest of my life? Because I don't necessarily believe in retirement. I believe in finding something that you love and you're passionate about that you can do virtually till the day you drop. Obviously you've got to take care of your health so that you can continue to be productive and live a productive life. But I was like, what is that? And so I did a little bit of deep diving. It's like, what do I love doing? What do I love? And what do I love reading about? What am I interested in? And it was like, well, animals, health, wellness, natural therapies. I'm like, how can I combine those things? And I was going to study to be a naturopath, like a human naturopath. But I was like, it was at the time when it was changing over from doing a diploma to having to do a university degree. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been at uni for 6 years. I don't want to go back for another 8 years because I have to do it part-time. And plus I want to help animals, So, and then my mum was like, you can be an animal naturopath. I'm like, get out. Does that exist? And she's like, yes. I'm like, oh. Google animal naturopath, Google animal naturopathy courses Australia. Oh my God, I'm so doing that course. So yeah, that was obviously that. And so I enrolled and I started studying. I was still working as a lawyer. And then, that's the main key turning point. And there have been others along the way. Like obviously when I was studying, I was learning so much and, it was all theory. So the first time that I put that theory into practice with my own animals and seeing the improvements in their health and their well-being from changing their diet. I mean, they were on an okay diet. Well, they were on a good diet compared to mainstream, but there were some parts of their diet that was just like, I have to stop feeding this like right now. And so making those changes and like going through it myself. Don't know if you hear that little meh, that's my Max. And just, seeing the benefits. Told this would happen. Sorry for the listeners. I've got this time of day, I've got like.
Just jumped up to say hello. Hello, beautiful.
Say hello. Give me some pats, Mum. So that was a big turning point, actually putting that theory into practice and testing it all out on my own animals. And then, just taking leaps of faith, like obviously taking a leap of faith recently, but I'd done it before, but just stuff happened and things didn't pan out. And then another time, like I was lawyering 4 days a week while still running my business. So I was pretty like burnt out and what have you. And then the job I had at the time, I got made redundant. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh yes, this is great. This must be the universe telling me enough, you are ready to start, reducing your lawyering. Yeah. And so that was December 2019, just before Christmas. Thank you. And then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to go back just because I don't want to stress about money, but I'm only going back 2 days a week, nothing more. And so I got a job 2 days a week. And then this year I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so stressed out. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. I don't want to be angry with my clients. I don't want to react with them because I'm so stressed out and I'm freaking out. How am I going to get my work done? Because now I've got to go be a lawyer for 2 days. And I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to be stressed. Stress is not good for us. So I was just like, I took some advice from a very learned friend. That sounds so loyally. Learned friend. That's what you say when you're in court. But she is very learned. She's very smart, and she's been through what I've been through, or what I'm about to go through. So, yeah, and she was like, you just got to do it. You just got to trust and leap.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's obviously going to be another huge turning point, but, can't talk about that really yet because I'm still there for I've got 3 more days left.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. I mean, a lawyer to a pet naturopath. I mean, it's not the thing that you really hear happening very often, is it?
Oh no, I mean, I did law because I started studying journalism first. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to go around the world. I wanted to be either like a reporter for National Geographic or something, or be on foreign correspondent or something like that. Like these big dreams. And then I was in the Supreme Court bathroom, and there was this woman next to me on the phone, and I was like, oh my God, she's talking about legal. No, I can't even remember. No, let's not even go there because we'll talk about that for half an hour. But anyway, basically I learned, I was looking at the course guide and I was looking at law because I was starting to get bored with journalism. And I was like, I could be a lawyer. And I let TV persuade me about how exciting and interesting being a lawyer would be, and it's nothing like TV. It can be very dry, very boring, very stressful, quite slave-like in terms of labour. And, yeah, some people love it and that's great, but it just wasn't for me.
It wasn't for you. Well, it's interesting because it's interesting because I actually started studying, before I started studying naturopathy, I started to study law. And the first subject I had was contract. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. Opened it up. And that's the subject that turned me off, and I deferred, and I've never gone back.
So boring. I mean, it's handy. Like I do my own contracts in my business now. And, I'm always wary of things like confidentiality and intellectual property because I work with commercial like businesses and companies as well as private individuals. So, there's obviously contracts in those commercial arrangements, and it means that, hey, I know enough about contracts that I can write a contract.
Yeah.
And so definitely I've learned wonderful things from doing it, but I have to do it as long as I did? Like, I'm talking about 17 years now.
Wow. You can probably hear my dog barking.
Yes, I can. He's like, hello.
It's like, talk about me.
I was literally going to say that. I was literally going to say, he's saying, man, I'm boring law.
Oh, that is so funny. Well, that's absolutely amazing. I absolutely love getting to know you and, your history and what you've been through and what you're going to go through, which is such a huge step. And this is where, this podcast is all about health professionals looking after themselves so they're able to do those steps like you're doing. But,
Exactly.
we talk a lot about success, right, in this podcast, and optimal health. So the two, what does it look like for you now? I mean, it would have looked different. Success would have looked different back in the days, and, optimal health would have looked different. So what does it look like for you now, Ruth?
Success for me is freedom, without a doubt. Freedom to choose how I want to live my day. I don't want to be bossed around. I don't want my day to be dictated by somebody else. I have to be at work at 9 a.m. and I can only have this long for lunch, and I've got to do this many hours of work and blah, blah, blah. So that's a big piece for me in terms of my work. And I think that's a commonality that all entrepreneurs have, in that freedom to, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. I don't want to be told what I can and can't do, unless it's me telling myself that I can and can't do something, because I do that. I'm, quite a dictator. But yeah, freedom to choose my schedule, freedom to choose the work that I do. Basically freedom to live the life that I want to live within my own parameters and not someone else's. So that's what I strive for every day, is create freedom.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And you're able to do that now. You're able to have that freedom and you're able to have that success, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting, there's all stages to that journey. money comes into it a bit with freedom. And I've been spending a lot of time listening and talking about, and this might resonate, you know, you're talking about people who have businesses and things, is like wealth creation versus being rich, and wealth creation for the purposes of achieving freedom, so that you don't have to work like 60, 80 hours a week. And that is also having freedom. And so how do you build a business that I don't want to create a business where I'm still working my butt off and I'm still stressed out and exhausted just as I was when I was a lawyer, because what's the point? The only difference is I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. And, you know, when I'm doing the work I love and I'm doing it in a way where I feel calm and happy, then it's amazing. But because I'm a perfectionist, you know, there can be still stress. And obviously, you know, I've had, you know, you have working with animals die, and that can be so sad and heartbreaking. And, you know, so there's always going to be pressures, like there's always going to be stresses, but it's like when you're doing something that you love and you're able to support others and you're able to give back, it makes the stress always so much more manageable. And also when you're doing this kind of work, you know the things that you need to do to help manage those stresses.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. It's all about being adapting to the stress and managing it and understanding it, knowing that it's there. And then you're like, okay, well, I know what to do if it's there, and not being like, oh, it's not there, I'm not stressed, and pushing it away and you know, blinding yourself in a way.
Yeah, and not ignoring it and going, okay, well, like I started this mantra a few months ago, because I got this reading that said to me, I don't know who it was, but basically the mantra was something to do with, do I feel at ease or do I feel calm? And so if the answer is yes, well, then I keep doing what I'm doing. If the answer is no, then I'm like, okay, what can I do to help bring some calm, some ease into this situation right now? It might be go and make myself a cup of tea, come back, enjoy the tea. It might be go for a walk and then come back to my desk. Or it might be just take 5, you know, slow, deep breaths, just to, you know, calm yourself down a bit. But always just trying to bring in more calm and ease into my life. And again, if you're working in someone else's office, you can't be just like, I'm heading out for half an hour, I'll be back when I'm back, whatever, you know. Whereas
put a sign up saying meditating for 20, don't disturb.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I can go and meditate. I can go and do some yoga stretches that don't aggravate my bloody sacroiliac joints. You know, but I can go and do something like go and put some essential oils on or something. You don't have the freedom to do all those things when you're working in someone else's office.
All those weird moves, like stretching moves, and everyone's like, what's wrong with her?
Yeah, what are you doing, you crazy person? So it's just, coming back to freedom, but building that life where you can build in those support mechanisms to help you be the best version of yourself in your work and in your play, and just as a healthy, living, breathing being. And that, you know, I guess that goes into the whole optimal health point. That, you know, it's still something I'm not there yet. I'm still striving for it. But it's like I say, when it's funny because I always bring myself back to, well, what do I tell my clients and my people who follow me on Instagram? What do I tell them about what's optimum wellness or optimal health? And it's like, well, it's about being the healthiest version. Obviously, we're talking about animals, you know, because this is what I'm talking about all the time. About your animal, helping your animal to be the healthiest version of themselves, helping your animal to be as healthy as they can be, because it's what optimal health is for one person or for one animal might not be the same for the other person or the other animal, because they could have genetic issues. So they may never be like the jumping out of bed, thriving, vital person that, you know, runs 20Ks, comes home, you know, whatever, you know, not that I have any dreams of running 20Ks every morning, like, geez. But, you know, whereas someone else who, if they've got some genetic thing, optimum health for them might be being able to get out of bed in the morning without being in pain.
You're so right.
So it's not, you know, I mean, I do think for me, it is about having energy and having vitality. And it is about waking up with that energy and the passion for the day ahead, waking up with my body not being in pain, being able to do a yoga class without feeling the pain the next day because I've aggravated my SI joints.
Yeah.
You know, and doing Pilates, the same thing, you know, so it's striving to be the best version of yourself and setting, I guess, those parameters for what optimal health means for you. Yeah. And also without, another thing for me is sluggishness. Like I've had gut health issues forever. And funnily enough, I was at the dentist the other day getting it clean, and I've still got some mercury fillings and I'm going to get them taken out this year, finally. And the dental hygienist, she was like, well, no, I said to her, I was like, I really want to get them out because I know that the mercury can be impacting, you know, other parts of my body, gut health, everything. She's like, exactly. And it's like, I said to her, can you imagine if I took these mercury fillings out and my gut health issues went away?
Imagine. Yeah.
We'll see.
Those things are linked, you know, but those things are linked. Keep us updated. Let us know. I mean, these things are linked, and people, we don't think about it, but they are. 100%. Look, I can hear the animals being like, talk about us now, enough about you humans.
Yes, definitely. Let's do that.
The animals are like, talk about us. What about us? So enough about us humans. Let's talk about animals. I am so excited. And I thought we'll start off with an interesting little way. I've read 2 of your amazing blog posts that talk about cats and dogs. So let's talk about today's topic, how to help your cat or dog be the healthiest they can. To start off, let's talk about the evolutionary history of the cat and dog and how it relates to wellness. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, this is one of like the centerpieces of the work that I do. And basically what you're looking at is, obviously we are, like what you said, we're looking at the evolutionary history because it is relevant to their health. And evolutionary history, mostly in terms of what have they eaten for the longest period of time, will dictate what is the best food for them to eat. But it's really, really interesting. On the 2 blog posts that you read, I've got like these tables that, well, not the tables, they're what would you call infographics. And so they spell out, you know, the relevant periods in the dog and cat's life. And I'm happy to go through it just to explain to people because, you know, some people will be walking, running 20 Ks, driving, and then I'm going to go and look at my blog post to find the infographic.
But I'll put that in the show notes for them if they want to access it. 100%. I'll put it all in there.
Cool. So it's about when thinking about what is the best diet for a cat or a dog, it's like, okay, well, let's look at their evolutionary history. What have they eaten for the longest period of time? And so let's start with the dog first. Everyone kind of knows, well, the dog evolved from the wolf. So we're talking about 1 million years ago. Let's look at the wolf. What were they eating? They were chasing, catching, killing prey. And I'm not going to get too gross here. Don't worry if anyone's a bit like sensitive because I don't like it really either. And then they would eat the whole carcass. They would eat everything: skin, fur, feathers, muscles, bones, gut contents, the whole shebang. In times of famine, they would eat vegetable matter. And so there was this very like feast and famine approach to eating. And it would be the same, like there are still wolves today, thankfully. And this is still how wolves still eat the way that they did, you know, 1 million years ago. But the dogs obviously are an offshoot of the wolf. So it was all raw, you know, as I say to people all the time, there are no ovens or stoves in the wild, and the wolves were not, you know, making their own fires and cooking their catch. No, they ate it raw, right? But there were those periods of feast and famine. So they weren't eating the same amount of food all the time. It was, you know, up and down. And then so that was 1 million years ago. About 100 to 200,000 years ago, dogs started to associate with humans. Humans in the form that we were that long ago, like I guess like your caveman scenario. I don't know.
About that, yeah.
Yeah. So they would follow and obviously us back then, we were going from like camp to camp. I guess where the food is would dictate where we go, and the weather would dictate where we go as well. So wolves started to follow the humans because they were like, they're like doing what we're doing. They're like, you know, chasing, catching, killing, eating, feasting. Life would be a lot easier if we just like friended them and we can like eat the scraps. I'm sure that's not what exactly went through their head, but you know, in a wolf way. So they started to follow humans, and they would scavenge the remains of the humans' catch, I suppose, what was left behind. They would eat scraps. And so but they were still eating, meow, actually goes meow. They were scavenging more, but hunting less. And so dogs are one of the character traits of dogs is scavengers. They are scavengers. It's like if you've got a dog, which you do, probably, you know, you're in the kitchen, it's like, I'm just going to wait for a scrap to fall on the floor and then I'm going to eat it. You know, they're scavengers.
So
it's in their DNA, you know. We're talking about 200,000 years ago. You cannot change this behavior. It's natural. It's inherent. So hunting less, scavenging more. And they started to have more like rotting food, because it wasn't as fresh, because obviously the humans were feasting first. They ate more bones and they ate more gut contents, the things that the humans left behind. And then 10 to 15,000 years ago, we really see the domestication of dogs starting to happen. And that's where we see like the modern dog emerging, like the shape of the dog actually changed. Obviously human development had changed a lot between 100, 200,000 years to 10 to 15,000 years ago, probably more settled living, not moving so much from place to place. So, you know, humans populating the area, what do? You get rodents, all the stuff we left lying around. So, you know, they were starting to eat rodents, still more bones. Feces started to come in, more vegetables, less hunted food, a little bit of cooked food. And maybe a little bit of grain as well, because, you know, humans back then ate a lot of grain. Like grain was like the biggest part of the diet, or one of the biggest parts of the diet. And then 2,000 years ago, we start to see the development of different dog breeds. There wasn't much change diet-wise until what is called the fake industrial pet food era. 40 to 150 years ago, around about the time of the, when was that? We're at 2020, I don't know, maths is not my strong suit. 40 to 150 years ago, processed pet food started hitting the shelves. And the reason for this is humans had started to eat that way. More convenient foods, less home prepping, less home baking, you know. Going to the shops and buying packaged food was happening. And so then it was like, oh, let's do this for the cats and dogs too. Life would be so much easier if we can spend more time like drinking and smoking and having fun. And so then, you know, canned and dried dog food started to fill the shelves, and these foods had little to no relevance to what the dog had eaten since like a million years before.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the dog. So, you know, we're looking at about 40, 150 years of fake industrial pet food compared to a 1 million year history. So what have they eaten for the longest period of time? Mostly raw, mostly whole, mostly fresh, mostly animal, some plant. That's a bit different. Their history is there. Oh, and dogs have also had some genetic adaptation. So they actually now possess DNA, which the wolf did and still does not. That means they can digest grains. Oh. So there's been that genetic adaptation. Now, for the cats, their history started a lot longer, 3 to 4 million years ago. And they derive from wild cats. One of those is like the African wild cat. I think that's the picture that I have on my cat blog post. So their diet, similar to the wolf, really. I mean, cats are also hunters, but obviously they're hunting smaller animals. So they're eating fresh, warm. Cats like warm. Cats are not dogs. They don't like rotting meat. They like to eat it fresh. I've killed a mouse, now I'm going to eat it. They don't like bury it and come to it like 3 weeks later.
Are you saying they're smarter than dogs? No.
I like to call them as a bit more like civilized.
Civilized. I love
And then, so that was like 3 to 4 million years ago, long time ago. And then we've got like 5,000 to 9,000 years ago, the cats started associating with humans. So if you think about the dogs, that was 100 to 200,000 years ago. Cats, 5,000 to 9,000 years ago. So associating with humans for a much shorter period of time than dogs. And that's relevant to this genetic adaptation that's happened in the dogs and hasn't happened in the cats, as I'll explain in a second. So they started associating with humans. They were eating vermin around the villages, but they were still diet, skin, flesh, blood, bones, organs, gut contents, whole carcasses. There's this period where there's not much data at all. It's quite sinister. Between 4,000 and 3,000 BC, cats were confined for sacrificial purposes. We have no idea what diet they ate.
Yeah.
It's pretty horrible. It would have been a horrible time to be a cat back then. But then we have beautiful, one of my favorite eras, ancient Egypt. And we all know how much the ancient Egyptians loved cats. Like cats were like gods, which is how I think it should be. That's my bias towards felines. But still they were considered rodent exterminators. So the diet didn't change. They were still eating skin, flesh, blood, organs, gut contents, fur, all of those things. They were still, cats are obligate carnivores. So they have to eat meat to survive, basically, or to thrive. Their body shape hadn't changed, that nothing had changed about the cat in the way that it had with the dog. And cats didn't start to become pets until the Chinese decided, hey, we want some of those cats that the Egyptians got. They're like really cool. And so cats started to be exported from Egypt to China in about 500 BC. And then later they went to Europe, and then by 100 AD, which is however long ago, about 2000, where are we, 2021? So about 1900 years ago, they made it to Britain. They still ate rodents, but they also ate some food that humans ate, but it was still mostly raw and animal based. It would have been like a little bit of scrap, throat for the cat. The cats would have still lived a very wild, street-like existence. And then, like we had with the dogs, the fake industrial pet food era for the cats started about 60, 70 years ago. So with the dogs, it was 40 to 150. Again, overall, a longer period of time. But really, similar in terms, processed pet food would have come in everything comes in for dogs first, always the way. And so then we see the processed cat food. We also see, and this was the 1950s, was really, processed pet food was the major dietary component of the modern cat. And around that time, we started to see a dramatic rise in feline health problems.
Wow.
So again, it's like, what did the cat eat for the longest period of time? Apart from the last 60, 70 years, they were eating rodents and they were eating the whole animal. And so in my work, it's about one aspect of my work when we're talking about nutrition, I don't expect anyone, and I certainly don't do it, with their cats or with their dogs, to go out and get like some chickens and some mice and go, here you guys, go catch them, kill them, eat them. We're not going to do that. So, but that is the best food for them. That is what they've eaten throughout pretty much the majority of their evolutionary history, which means they are built to eat that food, with the exception of the dog with that very slight DNA adaptation that now they can digest grain. The research doesn't go into, though, whether it's the best food for the dog, though. It just says they can digest it.
That's interesting. They can digest it, but does it bring any benefits into it? Does it cause any damage by doing it and so forth? It's good that they can digest it because it's keeping them alive, but is it keeping them healthy, not just alive? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it just shows that the dog has genetically adapted, whereas there's no research. And just because there's no research doesn't mean that it's not true. Just means they haven't done the studies yet. But to date, as far as I'm aware, there's no research that says that the cats have genetically adapted in terms of the digestive system. So, and yet most people are feeding their cats a processed diet.
Yeah, 100%. Most cats and dogs. I mean, and listen, and,
And
the
dogs
audience
too, exactly.
Yeah, and the listeners, the audience listening is probably like, okay, well, like you said, what am I supposed to just get a mice, chuck it in there, and go off you go hunt, and then pray that it doesn't come into the room, or get a chicken somehow? Like, so what are you supposed to? What are they supposed to eat? Like, some people might just have a new dog or a new cat, and then they're like, okay, well, yep, there's an aisle for dog food. I'll just go down there, and that should be right. I should trust that they've done their research, and I'm just going to buy that. So,
Exactly.
what do you do?
So again, it's like looking back at the evolutionary history. I mean, you can do that, or you can say, hey, Ruth, help me out here, because seriously, this is just too much. But, it's about replicating as closely as possible with the resources that we have a natural diet of the cat and of the dog. So it's not about going and getting a chicken for our dog, bringing the chicken home live, or even dead, like a whole chicken, and going, here you go. Except the dead chicken is not going to have the gut contents, because we humans take it out, because humans don't want to eat it, I believe. I mean, I don't eat chicken for myself, so I actually don't know what happens when you buy a whole chook. Do they I don't know, at Christmas time with the turkeys, they take out the innards and replace it with stuffing.
I wouldn't have an idea. I don't eat chicken either, so.
Yeah, so there you go. But so basically replicating as close as possibly their natural diet. So what that means, it's the best, right up the top of like the best, most optimal food you can feed is raw. But there is a little disclaimer that I put on that. Not every cat and dog can handle raw initially, if ever. Like, it depends on the individual animal. You've got some breeds, because we've got so many new breeds of dogs these days, they're getting less and less wolf-like. And some of these breeds, I mean, your oodles, like your cavoodles, your labradoodles, they can be shocking through like digestive issues. And so, it can be really a real challenge. And sometimes the best that you can do for them is to feed them cooked food rather than raw. But still food that is whole foods, that is fresh, that is mostly animal origin, not 100% animal. Even if a cat's being an obligate carnivore, it shouldn't be 100% animal. So it's, raw, whole, fresh, or at least, cooked animal and some plant foods. And, the plant foods have got to be prepared in a way that the animals can actually digest the nutrients from them, because you remember what I said before about gut contents. And this is relevant to why plants are important for our cats and for our dogs, because what does a mouse eat? Plants, mostly grain. What does a chicken eat? A bit of grain, veggie scraps, fruit. They're eating plants. Like a lot of what cats and dogs would naturally chase, catch, kill, and eat are herbivores. Yeah, so in their guts is going to be partially digested plant foods.
Partially digested plant
partially digested. So a lot of people will just be like, I feed my dog like carrots as snacks. And it's like, okay, well, it's a healthy snack, but they're probably not going to absorb the nutrients from that carrot, because they can't digest it in that whole original carrot state. They've got to break down those tough fibrous walls. They don't possess the same digestive enzymes that we do. And humans, we're omnivores. Cats, as I've already said, cats are obligate carnivores. They have a very, very short GI tract compared to the human GI tract. And the dogs is longer than the cats, but not as long as the humans. So a dog is considered scientifically a carnivore, but they do have very much omnivorous tendencies. So they can, they're scavengers, they have that inherent trait within them. And through their evolutionary history, they've learned to eat a wide variety of foods because they've been domesticated for such a long time. But cats, one day maybe cats will adapt from being an obligate carnivore to being similar to the dogs, and then dogs will just be like straight omnivores like us. That's what happens. Species adapt to what is in their environment and what's available to them. But right now in present day, we've got this obligate carnivore. It's like they're not going to be able to digest a carrot. it's like a cat, when a cat eats grass, cats love eating grass. It's very natural for them to eat grass. If they eat too much, it acts as a purgative. They vomit it up. And that's very natural too. It's like a self-cleansing mechanism. They're really intelligent. Dogs do the same thing as well. If their stomach's feeling a bit queasy, or if they've consumed something that doesn't serve them best, off they go outside in the garden to eat the grass because they need to get it out of them. And I guess that sounds vague in terms of, well, what should we feed? Raw, whole, fresh, mostly animal origin with some plant foods. What does that look like? Well, it's kind of, again, we're lucky in that more and more pet food companies are starting to create more natural food options for cats and dogs. Well, cats, hardly any. Like I said before, everything is always for dogs first and cats are last.
I was going to ask in regards to the carrot, you said, they can eat the carrot, but they won't be able to absorb. They need to be partially digested or partially broken down. Is that like the first thing that came into my head is blending vegetables?
Yes.
Or does it mean that we need to somehow get our hands on enzymes, dog enzymes, and put them together in with vegetables to be able to break it down? Or does something break them down for the dogs? Am I going on the right track with that, or?
You totally are. I would say first protocol, you don't want to necessarily, digestive enzymes can be a great supplement when they're needed, but you don't want to supplement with something that the body should be able to produce itself, because then the body can become lazy.
I love that. It's the same as humans. I love that.
Exactly the same as humans. So there's a time and place for digestive enzymes. They're not built in a way to digest vegetables the way that we are, because they are not omnivores, they are carnivores. The dog is a carnivore with omnivorous tendencies. So what it means is it's by partially replicating partially digested plant matter. Yes, you can blend. You can whack it in your food processor and pulverize it, or in your Thermomix if you've got a Thermomix. Lightly cooking it also does break down those tough fibrous walls, but you're going to get some nutrient loss with that. And some people grate, but I don't think grating is enough. You basically want to, and it's so funny actually, because I'm literally got a post going out on my Instagram tonight that's talking about vegetables. So it's good because it's actually fresh in my mind. I'm like, I've said this somewhere else, and it's like, yeah, because we wrote it down for your post tonight. So it's pulverizing it, getting to that partially digested state. You want it to essentially look like mashed potato.
Yeah.
So then they don't have to, those tough fibrous walls of the plant have been broken down. They can actually access those beautiful, glorious nutrients that are in those vegetables. And the nutrients that we're talking about, well, fiber is one, vitamins. So I'm so glad I did this post today because it's right at the front of my mind. I can still remember it. Most of the B vitamins, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin K, and also your antioxidants, your anti-aging nutrients. That's what you find in all these vegetables. Oh, and omega-3 essential fatty acids. Now, some of these things like EFAs, for example, the omega-3s, with meat, a lot of it is omega-6. But depending on what the animal ate, there can be omega-3 in the meat. For example, a grass-fed cow who's eating grasses is going to have meat that is richer in omega-3 than a cow who's just eaten grain. Not a natural diet for a cat, but that's another podcast episode.
Totally.
My cats and dogs. So yeah, does that answer your question? I think
yeah,
so.
100%. I love that. That's amazing. I love that it's all about looking back at what they used to do and what they used to eat, and then just replicating in a way now. Is there any one food or two foods for the cat and the dog that's a no-go? Do not give it to them. It's a no-go.
Yeah, so a lot of people think garlic is a no-go, but actually garlic is amazing. Garlic has so many medicinal benefits. It's all about how much. So you're not going to go and feed, and all the research that's done that then led to people saying, don't feed garlic to your dog or cat, it's toxic. And there's a lot of time it happens in research, they use ridiculous amounts. So they use, I can't remember how much they used. They used this ridiculous high amount of garlic, and I don't think it was even like raw, fresh garlic. I think it was that crappy garlic that you get in a jar, probably from like China. No offense to China, but apparently it can be high in arsenic or something. I don't know. So I always say go local, buy local garlic. We're in Australia, so buy Australian garlic, because we have loads of garlic that we grow in Australia. Support local farmers, all that jazz. But you also need to get better quality, because that hasn't been exported across 10 oceans to get to you.
100%.
But that doesn't answer your question. You asked for the no-go plant food. So onion is up there as well, but I know people that feed onions to their dogs and they have no issue whatsoever. Again, I think it comes with quantity.
Yeah.
Same with chocolate. I had a dog once and he was a greyhound. And so he would just eat, fast metabolism, greyhound type. And it was Easter. And he went into, at the time I had an ex-boyfriend and he had kids. And so he went into the kids' room, and there were Easter, they just leave it like pipeline everywhere. They left Easter eggs everywhere. Anyway, go down there. Oh my God, Louis, you've eaten. Well, all that was left with all these like foil, all the wrappers. I'm like, oh my God, Louis, you're going to die. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to be paranoid, rush to the vet. Let's just see how you feel. He was absolutely fine.
Yeah, wow.
But he is a greyhound, and greyhounds have very fast metabolisms. I'm certainly not saying to people, it's fine, feed your dog like a kilo of chocolate, they'll be fine, because most dogs wouldn't be. They can have a toxic reaction. So again, it's not something that it's not something that forms part of a dog diet.
No, definitely shouldn't be a 3 p.m. snack for the dog. No.
No. I mean, you can buy dog chocolate. It's not very healthy, but funny story, actually, when I was a kid, we used to have dog chocolates for our dog, and we used to sneak into the cupboard and eat them ourselves.
Because it was isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy times. It's like, sorry, dog, these are mine.
You know what? If you actually buy or make dog treats, you can actually eat them yourself. Like the ingredients in there.
Exactly.
If you get something that's got absolutely, all right, well, I've got one here. I've got one here, and it's got in it, like, I know how I have it right next to my desk.
I know, that's so convenient.
I know. I don't know why it was here. I mean, my dog's not always in the room. Buckwheat flour, whole grain oats, oat bran, golden linseed, dry mint, cracked buckwheat, aniseed powder, apple cider vinegar, garlic powder, and beef, right? I mean,
You could totally eat that.
Like, if I wanted to, and if I ate beef, I could totally eat it, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
But there's
it might not be very tasty.
Yeah, no. There's nothing in there that, that's how you know it's whole food. I know it's made and packaged and things like that, but if you make your own and
but
stuff
it's
like
pretty
that,
close to,
yeah, and that's the thing that you're talking about. You're talking about, come on, guys, get your stuff together. It's whole food that your animals should be eating. It shouldn't be
close to its natural state. It's the same as a healthy, whole food, clean eating diet for humans. Not the same food, but the same concept.
Yeah, exactly.
But just to recap, to answer the question, so it's actually, I've answered it properly rather than just going around on 10,000 tangents. Onion, be careful of onion. Chocolate, obviously. The other, grapes. Grapes are apparently toxic to dogs. Now, I have a cat. She eats, one of my cats, he loves dates. Now, I have another cat who eats sultanas.
Oh, wow.
Cats aren't supposed to eat sultanas. But as soon as I get a dried fruit, she's like, sniff, 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 give me some of that. I'm like, Lily, sultanas are not cat food. Raisins, so again, that's kind of like, probably she's going to have a laxative effect. But it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to serve up a plate of sultanas to my cat, because that's not cat food.
Yeah.
Although my other cat did eat part of my lentil patty today that I was having for lunch. You're a very modern cat. But
it's on the trend, the lentil patty trend.
Yes. And I had these like smoked coconut chips.
Oh, yes.
And cats love coconut, and it has that smoky flavor. I was like, here, you'll like this. And he's like, oh, yes, yum, yum, yum. And the rest of it was just like salad. He's like, I don't want to eat that.
No.
So your onions, your chocolate, your grapes. And that's why I said sultanas, because sultanas are dried grapes. That's pretty much, unless I've forgotten something. They're like your main three. But like, don't freak out if, like, I know clients who like, I feed my dog. I had a client once and she fed her dog like her leftover curry. I'm like, oh my God, did your dog get diarrhea? no, he's not. These were Indian people, so from India. So the dog was probably quite used to eating curry. So he's adapted to eating curry. Whereas our Australian dogs, unless you're a big curry eater, probably going to get the runs.
Yeah, they probably would, wouldn't they? That's crazy. So now that we know a little bit about diet for both the cat and the dog, we kind of know what to feed it. What would be the 5 non-negotiables when it comes to pet health? I mean, individuals who have their pet, what are the 5 things that you just can't negotiate? These are the things that you need to do for your pet if you want it to be healthy, which is what we're talking about today.
This is really hard for me to answer. I cannot limit myself to 5. Obviously, diet. Diet is a non-negotiable. You know, good health starts with a good diet. You know, what is that? You know, nutrition is the foundation of good health. I mean, hello, Hippocrates. Like, he's been talking about this for centuries, even from his grave, because, you know, he lived through all of us as we keep repeating his wonderful
Does indeed, doesn't
statement.
he?
Yeah. So nutrition, it's totally a non-negotiable. Other non-negotiables to me, like, and this gets a bit of controversy around it because I'm big on supplementation. And some people will comment on my posts and say, like, no, if they're eating like a proper diet, they shouldn't need supplements. It's like, well, I'm sorry, even humans who are eating a proper healthy diet need supplements. Animals even more so, because we're not feeding a whole chicken with still her feathers and all those things. We're not feeding a whole mouse with the feathers and the skin and all that. So there's all these nutrients that come into those aspects of a natural cat and dog diet that is not being replicated if you just feed them some meat. You know, the meat doesn't have the skin on, the bones generally. Like my cats, they have chicken wing tips. Well, one of my cats, the other two were just like, I'm not eating that, you crazy person. They came to real food too late in their life. So, you know, so there's some skin there, you know, the occasional bit of feather still on there. But, you know, for the majority, you know, they're not getting their whole natural diet catered for in the foods that we're feeding. So, and that's one area where supplementation is important to replicate those things that are missing. Then there's also the fact, you know, our soil quality is diminished compared to what it was, you know, 100 years ago. So it's like, you know, I have a healthy whole food diet, but I still supplement. You know, so, I mean, I'm also, I won't go into that because it's just, shoot. You know, so there are certain things, and then there are certain times in an animal's lives where supplements can be beneficial. Vitamin C, cats and dogs make their own vitamin C, but vitamin C can be beneficial as a supplement whenever the animal is exposed to stressors. So aging is a stressor, disease is a stressor, stress, anxiety.
Everything you're saying is just so like us.
It is. It really is. I forgot what your question was.
But we're not talking about us. We're talking about animals.
The top five.
Yeah.
So appropriate natural food-based supplementation. Another one I would say would be low toxic load. This is also the same for humans, right? I talk about low toxic load a lot. It's one of my favorite topics. And so that's like low toxic load. We're talking about the food. There's this study that's done. If people who are interested, get onto my website or my YouTube or my Instagram. On Instagram and YouTube, there's a video called "Is Your Pet Toxic?" There's a blog post along those same lines that goes into a lot more detail. But basically, I refer to this study that's being done, and they're looking specifically at glyphosate and the levels of glyphosate. They've done a comparison between humans, cats, dogs, and horses. The levels in glyphosate are highest in cats, dogs, and horses, much significantly higher than in humans. The highest is for dogs. And cats is a shocking figure as well. It's like, holy crap. And what they've identified so far, like it's an ongoing study that they're doing. What they've identified so far is that the most common source is the food. So I'm not going to go into any more here because we could spend 2 hours talking about that, but I go into all of that in the blog posts, in the videos and stuff like that. But it's a food. It's also the environment. What are you using to clean your house? What fragrances are you using in your house? What are you using for pest control? What are you using for pest control on your animal? What medications is your animal on? So all of these things are relevant to the having a low toxic load. And it's important because the higher the toxic load, the more prone they are to getting disease, to aging prematurely. So for me, that's also a non-negotiable when it comes to pet health. Clean water. I mean, let's wrap that up into low toxic load because that gives me more room to move then. Because I think that's fair because we're talking about clean water because water has toxins in, so that goes with low toxic load.
All right, we'll give you that one.
Yeah. So healthy natural food, natural supplementation, low toxic load, that's 3. Movement has got to be 1. You've got to move. Animals need to move. And then dental is really important too. It's like what I said before about, animals, at least they don't have feelings like we do. I don't think so. No, they don't.
No, can they? I don't think so. I was like, so they just take them out and that's it.
They just take them out. Very, very, very barbaric. Imagine if you go to the dentist, we have to take your tooth out.
Yeah.
Because you've got a hole in there.
And that's it.
Sorry.
And then we've got to put a golden tooth. I should put that with my dog because he's had teeth taken out. I'll put a golden tooth there and act all gangster.
I don't even know if they exist. So dental is important, not just for the mouth, but because everything is connected. So, and this is the same for humans too. There's inflammation in the mouth. There can be inflammation elsewhere in the body. And inflammation is a killer, just like stress is a killer. So diet, natural food-based supplementation, low toxic load, dental, movement, regular movement, but that's appropriate for the individual animal. Even your arthritic animal should still have movement in their life. Use it or lose it, right? I'd also love to add in there connection.
Oh, of course.
But it's also, all those things are more like the physical. And I'm like, well, there's also the mental and the emotional. So that connection with other, members of their species. Cats obviously a little bit different, but cats really only want to hang out with the other cats in their home. They're not resting hanging around with the cat down the street. But connection to their human, spending that quality time with them, conversing with them, treating them as part of your family, that's so important. Help them feel loved and safe. That's so important for emotional well-being. Low stress, and this isn't just stress on the animal. This is manage your own stress too, because the animals pick up our energy. I truly believe that part of the reason why our animals are our companion animals are in our lives is because they are there to help us. We've signed up. Some of your listeners might, be, about soul contracts and things like that. But we also sign up to soul contracts with our animals. So we're here to help each other. We're here to heal each other. And so if we're stressed out and freaking out and not looking after ourselves, then our animals can pick up on that energy. They want to help us out. So they're like, we're gonna take some of that on. Animals can even have the same health conditions as their humans.
Wow.
So that's why it's like 5 non-negotiables. Are you crazy? And then the other one is I'd like to talk about as well is enrichment, and movement is part of that as well. But enrichment is more about allowing our animals to engage in their natural behaviors. Cats are hunters, but they're also prey if you think about it. Dogs are also hunters. So, it's about playing with them in a way that they're going to be able to use their hunting abilities that they have, because they haven't lost any of these hunting abilities. They're still there. Like one of my cats, he loves going outside at dusk because that's when the lizards come out. And I've got this brick retaining wall and all the lizards are coming in and out of the holes, and he sits there waiting. And then when he sees one, he's like, off. And one time I was sitting there out there with him because I was like, come on, you got to come inside now. It's getting dark. And he just shoots off. He catches the lizard. I'm like, geez, you're amazing. Oh
wow.
My gosh. Yeah. So with my cats, we have hunting play. So at the moment, and it doesn't have to cost any money. I get a lot of packages delivered to me with all the stuff that I then send to clients and things like that, plus my own stuff. And so it's in a lot of packaging, a lot of papers and stuff. So, one time I had left some paper out on the floor and all of a sudden it's a cat toy because the cat's just scrunching it all up and jumping on it like it's like a mouse and they've caught it and they're like grabbing it and holding it tight. And like ribbons and string. And, you know, because lizard, a piece of string moving fast is like a lizard or a snaky thing or a mouse's tail. So it's literally just grabbing some string and shaking it around, and cats love it. Dogs probably not so inspired by that, but you know, there's so many dog toys. Like even you can throw something. You can still do that chase and catch. I don't know. You know what I mean? No, catching and chasing, playing. Dogs love playing. I mean, cats love playing too. But
yeah,
cats. Another thing for cats is they love being up high. You know, so giving them those different levels. They like being up high above the rest of the world. I can see.
Of course they do.
They like, dogs too like looking outside, looking out into the world. So giving them views to the outside world so they can sit at the window and, you know, look at the people going past, the birds
And
flying
bark
past,
at them.
like that. Bark at them.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it's all part of, it's allowing them to be who they are.
100%, it is. And I know 5 non-negotiables definitely is a limited, and we could go on hours and hours about it.
Yes.
But I think you've summarized it really well there. I think it's absolutely amazing if you've got those things. They're just non-negotiables for our pets, for the dog or the cat. So I've also seen you talk about herbs for pets, and I wanted to touch base a little bit on that on today's podcast. Is what would be, I know it depends on the pet, clearly what's in front of us and what's happening, but your top 3 herbs and what they help with, what would they be?
Oh, you know, I had a look today because I have like all my herbal prescriptions on this big like spreadsheet. So I've got every animal's like history from day dot and what I've given them and da. And I was looking at it, it's like, what do I use the most? And I'd have to say again, like top 3, geez. I have to say
I'm really limiting you tonight, aren't I?
I'm so limited. Talking about freedom before, it's like, oh, I don't feel like I have freedom to just talk about everything. But yes. My cat Max is like looking at me funny going, Mum, you're a bit crazy. So I'd have to say one of my favorites, even the smell, like I'm a big smell person, and actually like a lot of people who make up herbs for animals, they'll just buy like what naturopaths do. They buy like the ready-made herbal liquids. Because I'm not a human naturopath, my qualification as an animal naturopath is not recognised by the likes of MediHerb, PPC and all those things. They're like, no, sorry, we can't sell it to you. I'm like, well, screw you.
Oh, wow.
And then,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
there you go.
So it makes my job a bit harder, but I love it because then I'm a bit more like wise woman, witchy, you know, in that I buy all like the dried herbs. Like I'm not at the point where I have my own like amazing herb garden. That is a dream of mine. And then I actually make fresh plant medicines. But no, so I buy the dried herbs and always organic or wildcrafted. And so I get to actually smell the herbs.
Yeah.
So that's a bit, and it's like, as soon as you open it, before you even open it, it's like, So one of my favorites, not just for the smell, but it does have beautiful smell, is astragalus, or I think the Americans say astragalus or something. I don't know. I say
astragalus. Yeah.
It's like, that just sounds ridiculous. Astragalus sounds much more, you know, posh. Astragalus. So that's like, it's a beautiful immune supportive herb. Like it modulates the immune system, so it's not too jarring. It's just one of those, and I love how herbs are just more of those balancing. They're not necessarily going to lift it up too high or drop it down too low. So it has that balancing effect for the immune system. It's also another reason that I love it. I love it for the older animals. It acts as like a general tonic for older animals. So that's just, you know, beautiful. Milk thistle, you can't go past milk thistle for its benefits to the kidneys, but also the liver. It's kind of like that 2-in-1, and obviously it does more than 2 things. That doesn't really have like a fancy, beautiful smell like the astragalus. When I smell that, it's like, you got really nothing happening here compared to the astragalus. So it doesn't win for the smell aspect. But it is just a beautiful, for the liver and the kidneys. I mean, detoxification with your senior animals, particularly your cats with kidney issues. Any urinary issue is going to be kidneys, or any kidney issue is going to be urinary, vice versa. So, it is a herb that I use a lot because of that. Oh my God, that's 2 already.
One left, or am I really limiting you?
You really, really are. Let me say, we can do, you choose. It can either be skin, nervous system, or gut healing.
Oh, I want to do nervous system and gut healing.
Oh,
and skin. I want to do all of them.
Okay, we do all of them then. So my favorite skin one, which is not limited to skin because it's a beautiful anti-inflammatory herb, which is why it's so great for the skin, but it's specifically indicated for skin conditions, is calendula or marigold.
Yes.
Another beautiful smelling herb. Oh my God. And it's beautiful yellow flowers. Like, it's just
so
beautiful. I love it. Nervous system, there are so many herbs for the nervous system, but the gentlest one, and that's really, you can feed it as well as give it as a herbal medicine, is oats. So good for the, so in the herb world it would be like your oat straw, your what is it again? Avenus, I can never remember. Venus fever or something like that.
Yes, that's right. You got it.
Yeah. But oats, it's a nerve tonic. So it's beautiful and it's gentle, but it's also nutritious. All the nutrients that are in oats. Oats, when I had my dog, he would have porridge once a week. Not cooked porridge, but just soaked, more like bircher muesli without all the, I did put some fancy things in there too, like some coconuts and flax, berries.
Yeah.
But it's also good for sick animals or convalescent animals, because obviously it's a nutritive as well. So, and then gut, one of my favorite ones, which is not limited to the gut, it helps with all mucous membranes, is marshmallow root. Also beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flower.
Yeah, it is indeed.
And it does have a slight smell. But yeah, I just love that for healing the mucous membranes of the gut.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love all those herbs, and it's interesting you've mentioned those herbs. I'm like, yep, that's what we use on humans too for the similar things.
Exactly.
Absolutely
and,
amazing.
The benefits of the herbs don't change just because you're using them for a cat or a dog.
Yeah.
A herb is a herb is a herb. It's not going to be like, okay, well, I work on the nervous system for a cat, but I work on the skin for a human.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
The properties don't change.
Yeah. And is there any herbs that's just a no-go for the dog or the cat?
It's an interesting question. Mostly the issue comes down with how much you're giving or how long you're giving it.
Yes.
And there are some herbs, more so for cats. There is a few, there can be contraindications, or for those people who aren't herbalists or naturopaths, there can be some, what's the common word of contraindication? Basically circumstances where you should not use it. And more so with all of them, some of them you shouldn't be used if they have kidney issues.
Of course, yes.
So again, it's for me to go through all of them, it would take me all day.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But, to say some specifically, it's more of the properties of the herb. So I do know, I can never say these words. Salicylates.
Oh yes.
Salicylates. So they should be and even then it's more like it's not a don't use it, but for cats they should be used with extreme caution.
Yeah.
They're more sensitive to certain herbs. So your meadowsweet, your willow bark are example of salicylates. And then tannins, herbs that have tannins. So your black walnut hulls, which is a common one used for worming, very powerful, but you really need to be careful with how much you're giving. And if your animal has inflammatory kidney disease, then no herbs with tannins should be given. And herbs with tannin properties can also cause abortion in pregnant animals. So there can be some really serious side effects. But again, it's like it depends on certain conditions and how much you're giving and how long you're giving it, which is why there are some like really, really safe herbs, even like chamomile. You read certain texts and they say chamomile is not safe for cats. And it's like, well, yes, they are, because I have given it to cats and they're absolutely fine. I even give it to my own cats, you know. Very good treatment for using with I'm pointing at my eye for the listeners, for animals who have like conjunctivitis or any.
Yes, I have used that on my dog before. I make chamomile, dipped it in, and
also another beautiful, obviously, it's a carminative, so it's really, really good for digestion if you've got farty dogs, you know.
Yes, I give that to my dog too in his little bowl. When I make myself a chamomile tea, I'm like, dip in there.
And I always like, because I drink a lot of chamomile tea, and you can always see with my cats, like there are some herbs and they'll be like, ooh, that just stinks. But there's like chamomile, my cats were always interested in chamomile.
Yeah.
So when I see something that says chamomile should not be given to cats, I'm like, well, come on. If a cat reacts to something,
true,
then because of how sensitive cats are, generally speaking, I wouldn't say it's like 100% all the time. But generally speaking, you know that that's not good for them. So it's actually called, is it self-selection or zoopharmacognosy, something like that. With essential oils, when you're choosing essential oils for a cat, or even for a dog, is like the best thing to do, and obviously only ever using 100% pure oils, is you don't even have to open the bottle, because you know you can smell the essential oil through the bottle. But what I do is like I'll open the lid of it and stand quite far away from my cats, and I'll just literally put the bottle in their direction, and so they can smell it, because obviously their sense of smell is so much greater than ours, so much higher than ours. And, you know, and my Max is the most smell sensitive of all my cats. So if I want to go like, I'm going to try this out on you, and so I'll literally open it from probably like even like a meter, at least half a meter away, open the bottle and just like point it in the direction, and you see the nose starting to smell. And if he doesn't like it, he's out of there. I'm like, okay, That is not one for you. But, you know, I find that's the same with the herbs. I've got a lot of herbs in my home, so I'm constantly going, here, smell this. What do you think? Like, oh, that's interesting. They stay and they smell it. You know, they're really interested in it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know.
It's so interesting,
Yeah, it's more about getting the dosage right, and, you know, depending on which herb it is, not giving it, you know, some very, very safe you can give forever and not going to have a problem. But then there are others where you don't give for 14 days or da-da-da-da-da. And that's why it's like there are those ultimate safe ones like oats, you know, really, really safe. You can give that until the cows come home. You know, but there are other ones where it's like you probably really need to go and see a practitioner.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why there's people like you, which is amazing. And all the stuff that we've spoken about is just an overall picture. It's not, oh, these herbs are good, I'm going to go give it to my dog or cat now. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying these are the things to just know, and just, you know, it's a conversation that we're having here. So then you can take the conversation further with someone like Ruth, or someone who is, you know, a pet naturopath and is able to assist you in that. But I was talking to the audience, and I was telling them that I'm going to be interviewing a pet naturopath. And one of the key things that came up was separation anxiety. Can you please find out what to do with separation anxiety? And the thing is, the key one is also because we had the lockdown last year. So people got new dogs, new cats. They were with them all the time. And now they're going back to the office, going back to work. And these dogs, cats, animals are not reacting that well. And they're having separation anxiety.
They are not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It is definitely a common one. I see it a lot. Like I've literally spoken to two clients this week about their animal, not this week, it's only Tuesday, over the past week, about their animal and their separation anxiety. And you've got some really like serious cases, like destructive, obsessive behaviors. And even to the point where it's not any human though, it's just one human, and the dog will behave this way when this human goes out and the rest of the family is there, like they have this such strong attachment to the female. And so what I find, and literally having this conversation with one of these clients this week, is like, we obviously want to deal with this head on up front. So I find the best thing for separation anxiety is a flower essence remedy that deals with the emotions, the repressed emotions, or just the emotions of, I miss you, you're leaving me, or, you know, I don't feel safe without you. That's all emotional. And there might be something that has triggered that. Like it might have been like for this dog is only 5 months old and they've been that way the entire time. And so it's like, you know, and this dog was also weaned quite early from her mum. So there's those, you know, that has probably played a big factor in why she has such this attachment to the female human in the home. It's like, you're my mum. Like my mum, I didn't have my mum before and it's happening again. That's like humanizing it because that's what we think a human, but it's the same. They still have that bond with their mother, you know. So first port of call for me, like, because you want to deal with it head on straight up because it's probably driving everyone in the house crazy. And how's the dog feeling? You know, but also never to disregard the impact of diet, because diet can play a role in mental well-being and in any kind of anxiety. So like I've said to this client, we can start off with a flower essence to deal with the symptoms right now, but we really, because she told me what she was feeling, it's like, really need to improve the diet as well. We need to make sure that she's getting everything that she needs through her diet so that we can fix it from both the emotional and the physical aspect.
Such an interesting thing, such things like oats.
Yeah, I mean, and herbs can help too. Of course, there are beautiful herbs for anxiety.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Yeah,
you know, and you're really those you're looking at more of like your sedative type herbs. So your skull pack. What the hell is that?
What is that? New herb?
I just created it. I'm growing it in my garden. Skull cap, valerian, passion flower. You know, St. John's wort, all those. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
They tend to be, I tend to lean more towards, with the separation anxiety, more to the flower essence because it's quicker.
Get straight into it and head on. Looking at working with someone to deal with flower essences, the diet, some herbs, there's definitely things to take into consideration. And it's so good. I love that. So look, we've come to the end of the podcast and I wanted to know what would be some practical tips that you would give to the audience to incorporate that their pet, if it's their dog or their cat, is the healthiest they can be. You've spoken about so many things and I love the information that you've shared with us. Is there any other things that you want to chuck in there for us?
I wouldn't say other things, I've already mentioned them, but just to bring it home, just like 2 takeaways, things that people can start doing straight up. Is start doing, if they're on a processed diet, which majority are, start to incorporate some fresh food, whether that's some fresh meats, some fresh veg, you know, just start bringing some fresh in. Another thing would be to start looking around your home and thinking, what are the toxins in my home? Can I switch over to some natural cleaners? Can I switch over from those horrible plug-in smellies that are so toxic to, you know, diffusing essential oils instead? You know, can I, you know, what shampoo am I washing my dog? Has that got chemicals in? It probably has. Most of them do, even if they say like they've got oats in. Well, what's everything else that's in there? And, you know, sometimes they're really sneaky and they say active ingredients, oatmeal, and nowhere else do they list any of the other ingredients. And so you pretty much know, no, that's full of chemicals. So it's just having more about the same way that you might look at, is this healthy for me? Is this a toxin for me? Just applying that same approach. It's just digging a little bit deeper. You know, also like with parasite medications, pretty much every person is treating their animals with, you know, the tick meds, the worming meds, the flea meds. There are a couple of different ways of approaching that. One is the more natural way, fix up the diet. So then you are in turn supporting their immune system so they have a greater resistance to parasites. Use some natural parasite preventatives. That's the one avenue. The other avenue is if you are diehard set on only ever giving these chemical-based prioritize preventatives, is put your animal on detox every now and again. Help them process, or not process, help to eliminate the toxic residue of those medications. I go into the Is Your Pet Toxic video and the associated blog post with that, so they can read more about that. But they would be my two main things: start reducing toxic load and start feeding some fresh food.
Yeah, I love that. Mind blowing. Oh my gosh, like I could just sit here the whole night and we could just talk. Like,
totally,
let's just just talk animals and pets and herbs and food. I mean, the whole night I could just continue doing this, which is absolutely amazing. But before we close off, to finish off, I ask all my guests, as this is the Natural Podcast, what is your best kept natural health hack? You can either share your natural health hack that you may do every day, or one that you do for your pets that gets their health on point.
Well, I'll share both because they're both quite similar. They're both to do with food. For me, it's eating lots of plants. For the animals, it's fresh, natural food, real food. So it's all food. I love food.
I love that. I love that. So simple and just on point. I absolutely love that. If anyone takes anything away from this podcast, is feed yourself and your animals natural, healthy, whole foods. And that's it, literally. Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so, so much for being on the Natural Podcast, Ruth. I really, really appreciate your time, your energy. I appreciate everything you've shared with us. Absolutely love it. The history about cats and dogs, I mean, that is extraordinary. I love that. And look, if anyone wants to get in touch with you and have a consult, what is the best way they can contact you?
Either just via my website, ruthhatten.com. And I'm on Facebook as well, but I'm much more active on Instagram, which is just at Ruth Hatten as well.
Beautiful. I'll put the hashtags below and all the information, and people can do video conference calls with you with their pet next to them. They don't have to come all the way to Sunshine Coast, even though that would be nice.
Totally. It would be nice. No, totally. Like I have clients like everywhere, all over the world. So, most of them are in Australia. But yeah, I've had people in like America, England, Canada, like.
Amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
Can't massage animals via Zoom. Haven't figured that one out yet.
No. Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Ruth. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for being on the Natural Health Podcast.
Thanks, Mihaela.
Thank you for joining us on Natural Podcast. And remember, the missing link between failure and success is your health.